Eh?
Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang.
I don't know what any of this is. I'm old.
Sarah knows what's up.
Isn't Karen? You can suck my dick. You and Shakespeare. I don't give a fuck. I don't even care, man. Fuck you, Karen. You can. Fuck, I messed up.
Jeez. Well, while we wait, does anybody have any questions? Comments, dedications?
Just one.
Conspiracies?
Where's creepy?
I need to spend XP.
Quickly, do it.
On what, though? That's my question.
You can't wait for me to call you on your perception alertness and then spend it on alertness.
Majesty. By majesty. One of us has to have it at least.
You should buy Majesty, it's pretty cool.
Oh, actually, I legitimately can, I think.
Nice.
You can't jump more than one discipline dot in like a minute.
No, I have 4 presents, so...
Oh, really? Do you?
Yeah. And I have enough XP for Majesty.
You should do it. I shouldn't tell you what to do. You should do what you want.
Why not? I've been hoarding XP for this,
You have
for
been
any
hoarding.
moment.
You're all kind of hoarding experience, actually.
I only know that he had summoning because he used.
Yeah.
And I'll do it. Majesty.
Sarah,
But
buy
shit,
something.
now we're not gonna be able to say anything
I'm
to him.
saving my experience so I can up my disciplines. No, I'm not going to buy something.
Don't you have like 50 experience?
Not in a while, dude.
This is truly how I see this going. Robert, did you talk to your sire again about what we were doing? What, Majesty? Oh, Robert, we love you.
Majesty bots. Oh, yeah.
I don't think you can botch it either. You just turn it on, don't you?
Let me look up the rules.
I know one vampire who uses that one a lot.
I don't know about botching Majesty, but I had someone in one of my groups that always ended up botching Dread Gaze.
Oh, that was me. I did that.
Oh, fun.
No, I don't believe I've been in a group with you before.
Well, I'm saying I did that. All the time.
Fair enough.
Scott was there.
Yes.
But the game was running for like over a year, and each time he tried to use Dread Gaze, automatically failed.
I don't see... You should send me a message with what you've bought, 'cause I don't see much here.
Send you a message or what?
I was talking to Sarah.
Ah.
Actually,
Alright,
we can get started. The next scene is just Elined and Cormac.
It'll kind of shoot my wad, but I want to spend some XP.
Okay, you can do that. We haven't started.
I'll send you what I want.
You got it, Toyota.
Ooh, I have to spend willpower? Ew.
It's really fucking powerful, though.
Yeah, I get that. It's just... I'm not one for willpower.
That's why I don't like thaumaturgy, because most of that requires willpower too.
Well, most of it calls rolling willpower. I don't recall a lot of spending.
Really?
The disciplines you roll it, I don't know what you're spending it on.
Am I remembering it wrong? Maybe it's better than I thought.
Yeah, no, you don't spend willpower when you do thaumaturgy.
Oh, no, I'm thinking of chemistry. Sorry.
Oh, fuck chemistry.
Yeah, that one's bad. Spending willpower for illusion sucks.
Well, I'm going to get us started with Elined and Cormac's scene, unless anyone wants to spend more experience or ask questions or do anything out of character before we get started.
My XP is spent, man.
Okay. Let me put it down in your notey notes. You are spent.
Yep, all gone.
Almost. Okay, then I'm gonna get us started. Well, Long Tom's here. Long Tom, we were all spending experience. Did you want to do anything like that before you get started?
I sent you a message about that earlier. I literally had
did.
fallen asleep at my desk because I ate too much at dinner.
That's awesome.
Dunce cap.
Pulled pork equals worth 420 Gucci gang.
Word.
Jesus. Okay. Bristol, England, August 20th, 1454. We focus in on Elined and Cormac, moving through Bristol, having been delayed by an interception from the child of Gaetan de Corvo, the would-be merchant Alfonso, and hearing his seedy proposition. Having bought themselves some time to think on it, they're seen returning towards the stately manse of Kincaid, an impressive and foreboding estate in Bristol, with its strange and large apple tree in the front courtyard. You're recognized by the gatehouse out front, and the guards there allow you in without question. The two of you now stand in the courtyard beside the great tree and its low-hanging fruit. A brief stone staircase ahead of you leads up to a double wooden door entrance to the towering manse with silver lion knockers. The doors are closed, but the light from many windows and turrets lining the front of the manor suggests occupation. The scene is yours.
You say there are no servants out front?
The guards let you into the front. No servants, no ghouls have yet come to you or anything.
Alright, then he will use the impressive knockers.
The door is opened after a brief minute by an attendant in some simple black attire, fit for a house servant. Elined, you're well used to the attire and duties of such a person. He opens this left door and Before you even begin speaking, his eyes go to your hands, as though looking for something before he speaks up.
Ah, yes, of course. Welcome. Guests of Lord Kincaid. Please do come in.
The door widens, letting out a gust of warm air from the inside to greet you.
Cormac will bow slightly and go inside.
Well, Ned will curtsy as well and head inside.
Closes the door behind you, and then looks to the two of you.
Lady Virchkingen, welcome again. And your name, sir?
Cormac de Courcy of Dublin.
Ah, yes, Lord de Courcy. Very good. My liege is occupying guests presently, but I shall show you to the sitting room until he may join you, if you are content to wait there.
More than content, sir.
He smiles and starts walking away. As you're standing there, you see that you've been brought inside again, this great room, this great hall of mostly stone brick. Elined, you've been there previously, at least once in the past. A very long table with chairs lining each side, ending at a hearth, and an elevated set of tables and chairs to preside over the great hall. This servant leads you out of this room, and through an arched passageway, into another high-ceiling room of stone bricks. Fine carpets and rugs make routes leading into the room, and this chamber you are brought to has great and tall wooden belt bookshelves and mobile ladders for reaching the highest points. There's a massive fireplace with a low set fire, several cushioned armchairs sitting around, and an ornate black stone table with several silver chalices and decanters. There is another further hallway, a second hallway, that leads out from this chamber, further into the manor. And this man speaks up after a moment, as he brings you inside.
Shall I bring you anything while you wait? Tea, wine, fruit, cheese, perhaps?
Thank you for the offer, but I am quite all right.
I'm fine as well.
He bows and makes his way back in the way he came. I'll take a perception investigation, difficulty 7 from each of you.
Difficulty 8?
7.
7. Okay.
Okay. So both of you recognize something a bit strange about this room. Cormac, you get the general feeling that perhaps there were people here not that long ago, just based on the arrangement of the furniture. Elined, you're a little bit more perceptive as you're looking about the rooms and the seating arrangements and the couches. There are more goblets, and you see that some of these goblets even have drinks poured in. Some wine, some water. But certainly there's a good number of them, and it looks as though there are some plates of incomplete food as well. Small bits of grapevines and bread, apple cores. Many apple cores. You think several dozen people, perhaps.
Quite the group he's entertaining tonight, it seems.
Cormac will turn to see what she's looking at.
You as well notice some of these details.
Obviously, he's got mortals among them.
From the looks of things, yes.
We'll just have to be extra careful. And don't eat any apples.
She nods and glances over at her. I am well aware of that.
Above the large fireplace is a portrait of significant size and detail. It seems to be you think, when you look at it with any detail at all, very clearly a portrait of Prince Kincaid, who is centermost, and beside him are two others, whom are taller, a young man and a young woman, both with peculiar pale faces, and both of them quite handsome and comely, but their gaze is haunting. In the background behind the three is the great apple tree, seen in the courtyard. The fire in this fireplace is certainly not roaring by any means, it's more on the edge of dying. And the high walls and the ceiling of this chamber allows for much open air and space, and yet somehow it is quite warm in this room.
I've always wanted a portrait like this commissioned. It would assuage my vanity. All the same, he's going to step over and see if there's an inscription on it.
And Elined looks at the picture. This is Emmanuel and Ithra that are in it, correct?
It is. I'll take a perception investigation standard difficulty from Cormac. You see a very small inscription near the corner. There's no obvious author printed or name signed on the painting, but you do see an inscription near the bottom corner which reads, "The family together."
The family together, he reads out loud. Do you know these other two?
Emmanuel and Ithra.
Actual blood relations?
Would I know that?
You would know that they are not. As you were told it by your sire, Emmanuel and Ithra came to Bristol some time ago, went to one of these parties, and never left Kincaid's side.
No. Though that is, the exact specifics of that is a topic for another time.
Now I'm intrigued. But yes, it can wait.
As the two of you are looking at this portrait, you're caught by a voice at the entrance to where you came in.
So it is true. We are visited by the acclaimed gauntlet.
And in the doorway, a tall man is seen entering at a slow pace, before he abruptly jumps into the air some 30 feet up in this rising arc, passing the ceiling chandelier before landing beside the two of you very gracefully and gently. And you see this taller young man in the portrait. His face immaculate and hairless, finely dressed black jacket and a ruffled white undershirt. Very long, straight black hair which reaches past his chest.
What an entrance.
He does a little bit of a bow. It's humble.
I'm very pleased that I could entertain you. Admiring the portrait I see.
He looks up.
Fine work.
Yes, Cormac was talking about eventually getting one commissioned for himself.
Oh,
He turns slowly to look at you, Cormac.
yes. I can see it now.
And his cold hand reaches up to stroke at your cheek.
What a wonderful event for you to arrive tonight.
Cormac almost by instinct raises his hand to push the other man's away, but he stops, just raising an eyebrow at him.
His eyes are wide and excited.
With whom do we have the pleasure?
I am Emmanuel.
And he lowers his hand to start circling about you, the two of you, counterclockwise, making very balletic steps as he looks you both up and down, but focusing more on Cormac.
Brother to Ithra.
I assume you know who I am.
Oh, of course I know who you are.
He smiles and laughs a bit, almost nervously. And as you're looking at him, you're distracted as another voice from the second hallway calls out.
There you are, Emmanuel. What are you... Oh, who is this?
And in moments, what was once a distant figure at the end of the room is now feet away, as this young woman moves at an unnatural speed, almost imperceptibly fast. And her momentum brings a light gust of wind and carries forward fragrances of myrrh and frankincense. She appears of French origin, fair-skinned and ruby-red lips, her hair done up in a bun, and dressed in a revealing sheer black frock. And you recognize Ithra. On the other side, opposite Emmanuel, the two of you in between.
Oh my, what splendid timing. Are they here for father?
She looks past the two of you to Emmanuel.
No, I think they are not. But perhaps they may be. It is a hunter's moon, after all. Look at this one, Ithra. An impeccable specimen.
And Emmanuel runs his hand up to Cormac and down his arm.
Cormac looks to Elined for help. It's subtle.
Elined will move closer to Cormac and say, yes, we are here to meet with him.
To meet with Kincaid.
Yes, the prince.
Oh,
He looks almost sad as he looks at Cormac.
I'm afraid we're here for business matters, not pleasure.
You do not appreciate what is in front of you, brother. I find Elined equally delectable. Just look at this adorable peasant's attire she dons. And Without any sound, Ithra moves silently and quickly, pressing up behind you, Elined, wrapping her arms around your waist, and her soft, cold cheek is against your face in moments as she peers over your shoulder. Father would love them both.
I'm guessing then that your father is not Kincaid.
They both start to giggle, looking at each other.
I can get undressed for you if that would help. He'll give Emmanuel a wolfish grin.
She looks over at Cormac. You're only going to escalate matters.
That's what I do, my dear.
They're both grinning at you, particularly Emmanuel. And Ithra just hugs at you tighter, Elined, kind of rocking back and forth gently. You're standing there for a moment longer before a thundering voice shakes the chamber. The fireplace behind you all roars and the candles flame. They're soaring up. Enough! And out of thin air, Kincaid is now standing in front of the fireplace. As the room settles, the flames lower to a controlled size. Immediately, Manuel and Ithra have retreated from both of you, shrinking down and crouching, their shoulders up and heads bowed. They're cowering like animals beneath him, away from the two of you. These are Lords of the Gauntlet. They carry the authority of the Covenant, and you shall treat them with the respect of any Covenant prince. Kincaid takes slow steps away from the fireplace. Ithra is still cowering and her head bowed.
We thought Father might...
You will not speak of Father! He interrupts her, and she cowers more. Go. Take your brother. Attend to the guests below. They are in need of attention. Ithra quietly backs away, taking Emmanuel's hand. Their heads remain down, and they back out of the room, still crouched, looking more like creatures than men or women. Kincaid straightens out his jacket and turns to you with a returned docile smile, which you are more familiar with. I must apologize for their rude behavior. There is no excuse for such offense.
No offense taken, my lord. They were merely admiring our physiques. Although he definitely looks uncomfortable.
Elined, too, is rather uncomfortable with the matter that just transpired. Once they left, she dusts off the parts where Ithra was hugging.
We'll take a quick perception alertness, difficulty 8 from both of you. And Elined. Each of you notice a very thin trail of red liquid down the back of King Kate's hand. It's hard to see, but you catch just the edge of it. I had not expected to see you again this night. Please do tell me what I can do for you.
He looks to Elined.
My apologies. But we return with more grave news. And as she says that, she will take out the little bag that was given to.
He tilts his head curiously. What is this?
Well, we did a bit of looking into on the whereabouts of Izakai ourselves, and to be quite blunt, we came across a bit of his ass.
His ash.
She nods.
He looks to you, and then back to Cormac briefly before back to you.
Cormac looks solemn.
What a tragic and untimely demise. Though I must ask, how are you certain these are his remains?
We were told as much by a friend of his. I suppose we could have been misled, but why would he have reason to?
We'll have you roll manipulation subterfuge.
Difficulty?
8.
Ooh, I'm spending willpower on that one.
Okay.
Do not want to be caught in a lie here. So 3 total, nice.
3 successes. He looks from you back to this satchel of ash. Unfortunate, though very efficient of you to discover this so soon. Perhaps these Giovanni are more proliferative than we believed.
Yes, and there is at least one of them that I know of within the Isle. Though he is quite a ways off, I doubt he would have a hand in this, unless he has some underlings we don't know.
There have been many Venetian merchants porting at Bristol. He looks down in thought briefly, though none bearing the family name. Strange. But it seems perhaps not our concern at this moment. Indeed, we may be too late. Is there anything else you forgot you might need tonight?
We still need help analyzing the weapon now, since our source has met his end.
He waits a moment before nodding once.
Though exactly whom outside of him would have knowledge of necromancy without going to the Giovanni is another matter.
I am afraid he was the only Death Scholar whom I knew. I wish I could be of more help to you, my friends.
I see. Well then, it seems we have very little purpose here.
Yes, we only wish to bring this knowledge to your attention as soon as possible, so as to not exhaust any unnecessary resources.
He nods again.
Very good. Then, if you will excuse me, I must return to my banquet. I bid you both a good evening.
A good evening to you as well. And she will curtsy
Cormac
as
bows.
he's leaving.
He remains standing, waiting for the two of you to leave, keeping his palms away from you.
Alright. After the curtsy, she will get up and politely excuse her.
And Cormac follows after, perhaps a little swifter than he means, under that gaze.
Soon enough, the two of you are out, making quick steps out of the manor and into the courtyard and beyond. And as you do so, we will change scenes as we fade out from there. We will return to Robert de Vere in York, where it is September 11th now, on the evening of this gala, this banquet which Ragna has been holding. Robert, you were being led away by Dorothy Nicolier, child of Ragna. Dorothy leads you away from the party, up through the castle into a tucked-away little room at the end of a stone hallway. She takes a key and unlocks some lock there before opening, and you enter a room which is sizable. A large, ornate, queen-sized four-poster bed decorated with these hanging cloth screens. In the far corners, a large and open armoire containing many small vials of colored liquids and gowns. Nearby, there's a three-panel mirror, a screen for changing, and the adjacent wall has a set of tables and chairs sitting in front of a window. Dorothy strides into the room very comfortably, but stops in the middle of the room and then backs up to you again.
Oh, would you mind? I have such trouble reaching this.
And she pulls her hair out of the way, revealing the lace bindings of the back of her corset.
Robert steps forward. But of course. And he moves to assist her in this.
You tug at the lace, which eventually gives way, and you notice some movement as this corset loosens around her. Oh, that's better. And she begins tugging down her corset, freeing herself of it, and walking away from you behind this stand-up screen, calling from the other side. Please feel free to find a comfortable seat. I'll be at a moment.
Take your time. Robert looks around the room, appraising it.
As far as seating, there is, of course, the large queen bed, which looks very comfortable, and there's this table with chairs set around it. This window is currently closed, has these wooden hatches that close up.
My, what a fine room you have here.
You hear the miscellaneous sounds of cloth being removed. I heard a rumor about you, Lord de Vere.
Oh ho. Well, perhaps I can confirm or deny this rumor.
I had heard early in your unlife you had a family, a little home and a wife, even a child as they say it. Is it true?
Ah, yes. I suspect you've heard of that. I do not keep it a secret.
You hear more movement and see light blue dress being moved and hang over the side of the screen. Did you really let yourself be cuckolded so your wife could produce a child for you to raise?
Indeed I did.
Oh my, the scandal.
Yes, it keeps life interesting.
She finally emerges from the screen, now in a very light baby blue shift, ending about mid-thigh and with a deep neckline. Looking around. You need not stand there. Sit.
He'll pull up a chair and get comfortable.
She smirks. I wish you had chosen the bed. And she'll come join you in a seat next to you. Tell me about those times. Why do such a thing?
I'm curious, are you?
She leans her head on her hand, elbow resting on the table.
First tell me, have you had any regrets that you wish you carried out before, well, you were embraced?
Her eyes go up in thought, up towards the ceiling. I used to. Of course. I think they are now far enough out of mind that I would not call them regrets anymore.
Yes. Time withers such desires.
And you? Do you still yearn for those things? To have a home, to raise a family, to lay with a woman?
Some things are just not quite the same anymore.
And what is it you desire?
What I desire is something that is not easy to achieve.
No great desire is easily achieved, I would say.
Quite.
Is it praxis?
But
No, you don't strike me the type. You aren't like the others. Or am I wrong?
I would say to be in at least imposing enough to be in control of your own destiny.
Now that sounds difficult. And she raises up a finger, but smiles faintly, playfully. There will always be someone older, more powerful, more status to decide things for you. Will there not?
Yes, there would be. As you see, this is the great challenge.
So then the question becomes, how high up that chain do you wish to be?
Well, you can tell that I'm already quite high. But not high enough.
Higher than your status would to be claiming praxis over the Covenant. To replace one of the elders. It could be treasonous even to suggest it. And she smiles devilishly.
Of course, such things always are.
Well, between the two of us, if you could replace one of them, whom would you replace?
Do you wish the obvious answer?
I wish for the real answer. She scoots closer.
Robert takes a moment in thought. Playing with the notion of replacing one of the princes.
She sits there quietly, playing at her hair, twisting it playfully, almost like a child.
Well, I could think of perhaps one.
Do tell.
Such idle thoughts should not be entertained for too long, I'd say.
What do you fear? That I shall go and tattles my sire?
No. But it is a completely idle thought.
I don't know if you have noticed, Lord de Vere, I have little else to occupy myself here but idle thoughts.
As you say, but I think you have much more things in mind. You just need an opportunity.
She smiles unblinkingly. As I understand it, my sire holds a boon over you. Surely that is chafing, especially now that you have the status to accomplish quite some interesting feats.
What you say is true.
What do you think of her? Does Ragna seem a fair woman to you?
She is a cold one. Seemingly to be the opposite of you.
She shrugs briefly. I find her surprisingly unreasonable about some things. For instance, she will never end this feud with Barbaros. Not until he is at or beneath her heel. In one form or another. And she briefly pauses for a moment looking down before her eyes widen and she covers her mouth in alarm. Oh, listen to me. Saying such things, I'm thoughtless and sharp in my words tonight. Forget I said anything. Surely the kind here have had too much to drink tonight.
But of course. Still, you need not fear. Any repercussion for such idle words. Not from me, at least.
She smiles at that. I would say be cautious about her, though. She is pleasant enough, but everything she does is of pragmatism, not sentiment. I doubt she has wasted a moment while the two of you are here, not finding some way to size the both of you up. And she says this while looking you up and down.
No doubt. Indeed, I am quite certain she already has. At least started. Finished, I am not certain.
I am sure she would find it a great victory to have beguiled half the gauntlet to her bosom if she thinks you will aid her against Barbaros. Do not let her manipulate you as she has my brother. Poor soul. He was meant for combat, not the court.
Aha. So you seek an alternative with Barbaros. Then what Ragna has in mind.
She looks at you for a few moments before sitting up from the table, smiling faintly, and walking over, away from you towards the bed, sitting down at the head of it, and patting at the bedside next to her.
Robert will get up from the chair and begin moving towards her.
She seems to sit there waiting expectantly until you sit beside her.
And he does so. And tell me, what do you have in mind?
I would never presume to betray Ragna. But I think, as you said earlier, open minds, options, flexibility. And she lowers her head, looking to you. I am not the sycophant that my brother would be.
No. I'm certain your reputation allows you to get away with it.
Ragna sees much, but she would be surprised at the things that she misses so close to her heart. I sense in you a kind of flexibility, a kind of willingness. I suspect the others of the gauntlet are not so opened.
How can you claim such a thing when you barely even know them?
Well, a girl does hear things. And she smirks.
Quite.
I think the two of us, I should say, would make a wonderful friendship. A kind of alliance. There will be movement in the future nights, I am sure of that.
I am agreeable to this.
She smiles brightly. I'm very pleased you spoke to me as you did at the party, and that we could speak here tonight. I hope you aren't going to leave here without christening this new friendship of ours. And she smiles mischievously.
Of course not. Now, shall I take the lead?
Let us align ourselves more concretely and intimately. Let us share in the blood oath this night. And she lays back into the bed.
I thought this is what you might have in mind.
This, and perhaps other things.
Very well. To our new friendship.
Hear, hear. And she grins as she lays back against the backboard, her arms outstretched. Feed of me anywhere you please, and then I shall take of you.
Robert will begin moving towards her. Bit hesitant at doing this. Nervousness is in him as he thinks about the implications of starting this bond would imply. But he'll go through it, seeking her cold neck. And insert his fangs.
She moans at the ecstasy as you give her the kiss and sink your fangs in. And she wraps herself about you as you begin to feed from her. And we will fade to black as the two of you would join bodies, and you as well feel her feed upon you this night as the two of you lay together. We'll fade from this scene. Elsewhere, the same night, return to Long Tom. Tom, you return to the party a bit after Ragna does. And many of the faces are still familiar and present there. You see after some time that it seems that Robert and Dorothy are gone, but most everyone else is still there. Ragna continues to entertain some of the guests. She steers clear of the Duke of York in public, but being that you're already aware of their relationship, you do catch their eyes exchanging across the room more than once. I will take a perception investigation from you, standard difficulty. Okay. Maybe half an hour later, you notice that Ragna departs up from the party up a stone staircase, and a few minutes later, the Duke slips away from the party and goes off without his guards, alone up the same staircase.
Out of curiosity, can I tell whether or not she was trying to slip my attention, or if well, probably wasn't a concern of hers, but
it's difficult to tell intent. I would say rolled 3 successes. You think, generally based on your investigation of movements in this party, she was more broadly just trying to leave quietly for everyone's sake. Probably yours included, maybe not.
Is, I can't remember her name, her bodyguard still around?
Lydia is in fact still around. She did not follow Ragna, and that's one of the few times, maybe the only time you've seen Ragna in York without Lydia, or going anywhere without her.
Thomas is going to leave in the same direction, about the same interval behind the Duke. See if he can't keep pace with the man's footfalls through the halls. Similarly surreptitious.
Alright, I will take a dexterity stealth from you, standard difficulty. You're moving quietly up this stone staircase. It ends quickly and you start going down a lone stone hallway. And you're moving fairly quietly. You see, just out of the corner of your eye, you're able to stay behind the Duke. And just as he's about to turn a corner, you assume he's going to keep continuing, and so you continue on, but his head turns at just the right angle that he pauses and notices you in the corner of his eyes. And he stops to look at you.
Apologies, Your Grace. I seem to have consumed too much wine. Is this not the direction of the loo?
He's a bit of a ways away down the hall, but looks about him to see who else is around.
I think you are a bit turned around. You may want to go back downstairs.
My thanks. It's such a large estate, it's quite easy to lose one's path. And he'll duck back behind the corner until he hears the man move on.
He waits there for several minutes before he continues on.
The hall he's up, was there another corner to take?
You see him disappear behind a corner, and you don't know where that hall goes off to yet, unless you decide to start following him again.
I am going to, but I'm going to be a little bit more cautious about it. Can I roll perception alert just to see if I can hear his footfalls from this distance?
Sure, difficulty 8. You can't tell. You know he wasn't making much noise to begin with, and as you listen, it's as though you can't hear anything at all. You actually think that the sound of the torches, the ensconced torches, are making more noise than maybe he is, and you can't hear past them.
Rather than run the risk of offending his host, possibly fouling whatever plans she has, Thomas is going to err on the side of caution and head back down to the bar.
You make your way back down, and as you're reaching the bottom of the stone staircase that you saw them both go off in, you see Lydia there in her gown, her arms folded, looking not very happy.
Can't blame a fellow for being curious. I thought better of it. You'll be happy to hear.
She steps aside and gestures for you to continue on out.
Even so, if you'll forgive me this small impasse, I wonder if we might spar again in the future. I'd very much like to improve my own swordplay. You seem a more than worthy teacher.
She waits after a moment and then nods once.
Excellent. Then, should Ragnar allow it, name the time.
She smirks and follows you out.
Not expecting a response, he'll continue talking. Of course, I do expect a few sound thumpings to be had on my end. You're quite good.
Of course, you get no response, but she walks beside you, back to the party. Unless you mean to go somewhere else.
No. He's been caught. He's owning his shit. Not gonna make an even bigger fool of him. It occurs to me I've not seen anyone, even of our kind, move as you did. You're not of the blood, are you?
She looks at you sidelong, and then looks back to looking forward.
I'll take that as a no, you're not. Curious. More questions than answers. He does look quite pleased, and even a little bit more intrigued.
She does not seem as pleased as you are.
It's okay. I won't say that you told. But fair's fair. I'll let you know a secret of me as well. I'm not quite what I seem either. And he'll wink.
She stares at you for a few moments.
You keep your secrets, I'll keep mine. And vice versa. Fair?
She looks at you with a raised eyebrow as though incredulous. And it's about that time that the two of you reach the doorway to the rest of the party, where no one is any more sober than when you left.
May I find you for the next dance?
She nods after a moment.
Then at least I know I haven't offended you over much. I'll take comfort in that.
She smiles faintly, politely, before nodding to you one more time and doing a little bit of a curtsy and then moving back into the party.
And he'll bow back at her and also rejoin the party.
Alright. Is there anything in particular Tom wants to try and do at the party, or just generally socialize?
He is going to socialize, but he's going to be socializing with a purpose.
Okay.
Ragnar mentioned that there were people here that could be of use to him, and he'll see if he can feel them out and find those that are either in the business of buying or in the need to buy particular wares he purveys, or those looking to, shall we say, invest in other ways, such as providing manpower, particularly that of the armed variety. Even if they happen to be simply idle soldiers that can't otherwise be employed, but are still taking coin.
I will take a manipulation etiquette, difficulty 7.
Manipulation especially is persuasive. I feel like that applies.
Yes. Two successes with your specialty. You're fairly good at schmoozing with these people. You find there aren't any real soldiers of fortune here. They are really one and all nobles of one variety or another. Mostly...
So,
go ahead.
So specifically, I know that nobles, if they've got a regular household guard or a standing force of any kind, they're still paying them wages. If they are paying more wages than they can reasonably afford or need, Tom would offer to reimburse the wages for those men in return for putting them to work in other purposes.
You are correct in that many of these men have standing retainers. They have retinues of men that are always paid to guard or serve the nobles, compared to the levies that they have to raise. Many of these are barons and counts. And so they have varying sizes of retinues, anywhere between 10 to, at the high end, maybe 100 to 150 men that they actively keep employed, otherwise it's too expensive. You find some of the counts who could use a little bit extra coin and are willing to spare some of their men for the extra coin they don't quite need right now. There is no active war. And they're willing to part with 20 of these men of their retinue for your coin. And these would be knights.
Excellent.
They would be quite expensive, but they would also be well equipped and skilled soldiers.
I shall draw up the contract and have it to you in the... not this evening, obviously, but I'll have it to you the following evening.
I'll get you the name of the count when I figure out which count it is, but he agrees.
Fair.
He agreed, explaining that he'll probably be in town another night or two before he returns to his holdings. So you are somewhat successful in finding a retinue of some knights. And eventually in the party, as more songs for dancing occur, Lydia does join you for these dances. Every now and then you see that Jesper has also joined in dance with some of these people. There's still no sign of Robert, Dorothy, Ragnar, or the Duke?
During these dances, of course, Thomas will maintain polite discourse with Lydia. Always just a little undercurrent of flattery. It's a playful sort of flattery.
Can I ask what's going through Tom's mind? Where is the flattery coming from, and why does he do it?
Most of it is he knows he fucked up, for lack of a better term. And he's trying to assuage her concerns about him as a potential threat to Rag.
I will take manipulation, empathy, difficulty 7. Oh, very successful. 5 successes. So even though your partner here is very mute and seems not to have a voice at all, you do see more emotion on her face than you have in the previous nights. And it takes some time, it takes some goading, but you're a smooth operator, even with women who can't speak. And you pick up on the body language of when to say the right thing and when to stop talking. And by the end of the night, you feel like you've gotten on her good side. Based on the way she's receiving you.
After a few dances, he'll hold her hand for a moment longer than might normally be polite, just to see how she responds. Not grasping, but just lingering.
She'll look down at it for a moment, and then look to you.
Apologies. I don't quite know what's come over me.
She smiles, but lets go of your hand.
He won't resist at all.
It gets to be fairly late in the night, perhaps 1 in the morning, by the time that this banquet finally starts to quiet down, and many people are passed out on the tables or in their chairs. Some people have gone home. The musicians go home around this time. Some of the servants are picking up trays and helping people out. You see 2 servants take an arm in an arm of this one man who needs to be helped out. He's quite passed out. You see Jesper walk off with the arm of one woman.
Thomas is content for the time being to keep Lydia company until Ragnar returns. Or it just gets too damn early in the day, or early in the morning.
It's been about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours since you saw them disappear. when you see that I'll think about this for a moment. You see Ragna return in time. I'll take another perception investigation roll. Difficulty standard is fine. Alright, 2 successes. Ragna's very good at putting up appearances, but you're very good at picking out how she looked before and how she looked now. Her hair is done up and her dress looks fine, but it's slightly out of place, and her hair is just a little bit different than it used to be. And as she's entering, you can see that she's kind of touching up at her face a bit, and touching up at her hair, fixing her bustier a bit as she enters the room again. There's almost no one still conscious except for the guards, of course, and the staff, the servants, moving here and there.
And he'll look to Lydia. Shall we tend to your mistress then? He doesn't wait for a response, but he does rise.
At that point, Lydia is actually closer to greeting her than you are.
He'll also step forward, polite distance.
Ragna says a few words quietly to Lydia, and she nods and moves on past as Ragna enters this great hall again, looking to you, smiling faintly.
I hope all is well.
She joins you, looking out on the scene of the party having very much come to a close. Quite well. I hope you enjoyed yourself here.
Yes. Lydia is quite the chatterbox. And he grins a bit, knowing full well that she knows that's...
She turns to you slowly. Yes. Lydia has much to say, though difficult, of course, to say it.
I have a bit of a confession to make.
Oh?
When you departed, I thought for a moment to follow after, to see what transpired. My curiosity got the better of me for a moment, but I caught myself before I made a fool of myself and cast myself far from your good graces. Apologies for the presumption.
A grin begins to form on her face, so does not finish. A risk. To try and to tell me. What do you suspect transpired?
Given that you were quite the part of the cat that caught the canary, I think there's quite a bit more to your relationship with the Lord Protector than even he knows. Besides which, Lydia caught me after I came back down to the party, once my good sense caught up with me. I figured it would be less damaging if I told you rather than you hear it from a second source.
She nods once. I doubt you would have had much interest in the sounds you would have heard.
I expect they're sounds I'm not completely unfamiliar with. I was a sailor, you know.
She smiles faintly again. Shall you be remaining in York long?
We had arranged to meet our fellows here. They were going to join us at the turning of the month. If you'd prefer, I can definitely send word to them and we can arrange to meet elsewhere.
By all means, please do stay as long as you like. The gauntlet is, of course, always welcome.
I keep hearing that. It's not always as sincere as when you say it.
That is true. But sincere when I say it.
I certainly hope so. Though if you're half as good as I am, and I suspect you're at least twice as good, I wouldn't know if you didn't.
I may be traveling in the coming weeks, so I may or may not be available to meet and receive the rest of the gauntlet. In such a case, Jesper may accept presentation.
As suits his station. I wonder, though, would you care for accompaniment by a member of the gauntlet, or is this a private matter?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Did I cut out?
You're just a little bit quiet to me.
Okay. I wonder if you wouldn't care to have the accompaniment of a member of the gauntlet, or is this a private matter?
You may accompany me, though I thought you mentioned receiving the rest of your companions here.
That will be at least a fortnight, possibly a few days more.
She nods. I shall be returning to London with the Duke.
As I expect might we. Though I wouldn't ask you to delay your departure on our account.
Should the timing be fortuitous, you may join me.
I had planned to arrange a ship.
That is quite sincere, but my traveling arrangements are very much taken care of.
I didn't mean to be quite so presumptuous. I simply meant that was my plan. And though I understand someone of your station does not leave such things to last-minute preparations, if you cared to join us, I could certainly arrange berthing for Eurytinu and herself as well.
We shall see. And she smiles again.
Have you traveled much by sea?
Oh, yes. Less so now, but... And she starts to nod a few times. In the past.
Do you ever miss the poetry of it?
No.
His expression is a bit wistful and also a bit, shall we say, piteous. Then for that I am sorry.
I suspect your memories of the sea and mine are quite different.
Or perhaps I've simply romanticized it a bit.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. One must find something to be passionate about in on life. You shall go mad.
I apologize, I'm keeping you. I'm sure you'd like to retire for the evening.
There are some things which I must attend to, but... It sounds as though you shall be in the city for some time, and so we shall see each other much more, I imagine.
Yes, there are some questions I had, but they can wait.
She looks past you, making a faint motion with her head. Is Lord de Vere no longer here?
He departed with Dorothy. I'm sure he's got up to something he ought not to have.
Make a perception empathy roll, difficulty 8. Do you have any perception specialties here?
Nope.
Okay. So one success. It's very brief. You catch in her eyes just a moment of anger, perhaps surprise, and it's gone.
I'm honestly more worried about him than her. As I said, he lacks guile.
Thank you for telling me. My children oft find themselves in over their head, should we speak.
I certainly hope that she hasn't found herself in a compromising position.
If you'll excuse me.
Of course. Good evening, Your Grace.
She nods to you briefly before turning abruptly and heading off down the hall.
He'll bow and step back a pace to let her pass. And he'll call after, Good evening, Lydia.
Lydia's actually gone. As soon as she came up, heard something from Ragna, she nodded and then moved off. She left.
Oh, I missed that.
And so you are left. Presumably the only Canaanite still left in the Great Hall.
Presumably or actually? Who else is in the Great Hall? And how late in the evening?
There are the guards, which have not moved even a muscle all night. There are maybe a half dozen of these castle house staff cleaning things up, gathering food and moving plates. There are maybe 2 or 3 nobles still fallen asleep in their chairs or heaped over the table.
The nobles, do they have any coat of arms or anything to identify their house?
Their rings would, you think. They're not wearing, I mean, they don't have any shields or armor or anything like that. But if you look at their rings, probably. Although you do know it looks a bit awkward to pick up someone's passed out hand and look at their ring, especially while guards are looking at you.
I was hoping they might have it embroidered on their doublet or what have you.
Not really. They're dressed pretty finely, and they're not wearing their heraldry on their tunics or anything right now.
He'll catch a servant. Find the household guard of these men. See that they're collected.
He nods and continues moving on.
And he'll go for a bit of a stroll along the ramparts.
All right. You find your way outside of the castle of York, along some of the walls, and you're dressed finely enough and coming out of an exclusive enough entrance that people just assume that you're supposed to be there, so no guard really stops you as you're walking along the walls and the ramparts. And you can see out from the curtain wall of the castle the cityscape before you. Still fairly active even at this hour, getting on to be 2 in the morning. Not nearly as busy as London, though there is still activity here and there, a carriage, a rider here and there. It's getting cooler out, but the air is still fairly comfortable to the average kind, you imagine.
Just a bit crisp.
Is there anything else you would like to do as you walk the ramparts?
No, he was rather hoping he'd provide an opportunity for Rothschild to approach him if he was in the city. So the stroll along the ramparts seemed like an opportune moment if such a creature wanted to make himself.
All right. I will think on that as you begin walking the ramparts. And for now, we will fade the scene as you get a view of York at night, the castle behind you. We will close this scene. And it is just about on the hours. We'll take our 15-minute break and come back in 15.
Delightful.
Delightful. Alright, how are we doing?
We're all dead.
A little sleepy, kind of bloated.
Hmm.
Seconded.
Hmm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah here?
I'm here.
Did you say you wanted or thought that you needed a path roll?
I was debating that, yes, because colluding to lie against the prince, even though it could further their investigation, is a form of disrespect.
Let me look at your path and things. Hadn't thought about it in that angle, but let me look. For the most part, I just trust that people play to their paths unless something egregious happens, and then I'll start looking at it. So yours was treating a superior with disrespect, is that correct?
Potentially, yes. That's more of one of those gray area up in the air ones.
Most of them are gray areas. Most of them are arguable or debatable. I don't think you need to roll for that, because I don't think you treated him with disrespect. Not the way I would look at what you did and why you did it. The way I'm looking at it is you could undermine and lie to your superiors without disrespecting them.
Fair enough.
So you get a pass. But good on you for self-policing. And since we're all here, I'll get us back in. Alright, we return to Bristol on the same night that Elined and Cormac are leaving the estate of Kincaid once more after a strange encounter with his two companions, Ethra and Emmanuel. You've made your way back into the streets, seemingly having convinced Kincaid of the death of Hezekiah, given his ashes. Now that you are back on the street, what do the two of you mean to do?
Elined is hastily walking back to her sire's manor. She is relieved to be out of the prince's manor, but part of what they did has left a good deal of unease.
Indeed, there is something lingering about the touch of Ithra on your shoulder and at your skin. It's almost as... It's nothing physical. It's a sensation. It's a psychological feeling of unease. It is definitely lingering on you. As though you shook someone's hand who you knew had a dirty hand, but you didn't actually get anything on you. And so the two of you are making your way apparently back to Elined's sire's manor. The two of you remain quiet, or does anyone try to speak up after your encounter?
Cormac is going to speak in a conspiratorial tone. I wouldn't assume he completely believed us. We must assume from here on out he's going to have us followed.
I am aware.
We'll be as roundabout as we can, and we should hurry before that summons takes hold.
She nods. But
Go ahead.
okay. She nods and keeps up her hasty pace to return back.
Alright. Soon enough, you make your way winding through the narrow streets of Bristol, and you return to Villanis de More's manor. The staff lets you in, guiding you in, and closing the door behind you. It is still as dark as you recall. The occasional candle lights a hallway, but Villanis has always kept a fairly dark manor. And of course, free of mirrors.
How late in the night is it?
At this point, it's getting quite late. I would say perhaps 2 in the morning, maybe 3.
Did Hezekiah say he could hold out for one more night?
He mentioned being able to, tomorrow would be the latest time.
It will have to wait. The hour grows late.
Yes. But in these waning hours, we can at least look over that text.
Then let's do. Cormac will retrieve the text with his cape wrapped around it that he left at the manor.
So moving to the table where your collection of texts and this tome that Hezekiah collected from this other Cappadocian he references as Dionysus. You open it up and start poring over it. It's mostly in Greek, which, Cormac, you can read. Elined, I don't know if you can.
No, she cannot.
It's funny. The text is in Greek. He's taken the name of a Greek deity.
I have no knowledge of the language, nor the deity of which you speak.
I read it quite well, and know a bit about the mythology. Dionysus is a god of wine and debauchery. Bit of a funny name for a Canaanite, if you ask me. Unless he fancies himself a god. He'll smile as he sets the book down and opens it up.
Unless the name wasn't one he gave himself.
Also a possibility, I suppose. Let's see what we have here anyway. And he'll begin flipping through the pages. He's not reading in detail, that would take too much time, but just to see the nature of this text in general, how very basic it is on anatomy and...
You find that a lot of the notes are kind of segmented by section and topic. There doesn't seem to be one long continuous subject that's gone into detail. It seems to be a number of different tangents of thought.
So it's more in the... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
It's more in the manner of like a scientific journal, then?
Kind of. It does seem like he studies things to a point in this journal and collects these notes, and then he moves on to something else after he seems to have been content with whatever he's found. And towards the end, you find a passage that seems mostly to contain pictures or drawings. I'll have you roll Intelligence Academics, standard difficulty.
Oh, geez. Damn you ones.
Do you have any specialties by chance?
No, not in either.
Okay. It's tough to say what this last chapter that mostly contains drawings has. There is one drawing of this spiral which Hezekiah detailed to you. It's like a spiral that's not symmetrical, and it's very heavily circled. You get the impression that it was heavily emphasized, but you can't really tell why. You're not really putting the pieces together here.
I wonder what is the meaning of this. And he'll tap that spiral a few times.
Elined, you can't speak Greek, but you can look at pictures. I'll have you roll Intelligence Academics as well.
He will translate for her, if necessary, whatever Greek is surrounding it.
It's a bit of a stretch, but would... Never mind, that's a perception. I was thinking perception, not intelligence. Never mind. Difficulty 8?
Standard.
Standard, okay.
Oh, 4 successes. So with Cormac's help, and you do need his help in a lot of this because you don't really know what the annotations or these subscripts at the bottom mean or on the sides. But with his help, you're seeing a pattern here, and the two of you together realize that this last chapter seems to be a collection of drawings and engravings, really stone engravings, found on burial chambers. And this one of this spiral, which seems to have much more emphasis and more notes and little lines drawn from here and there with commentary about the anatomy, you recognize this as what is called an ammonite. This is supposed to be a sea creature that's what we would in modern days call a fossil, but you might think of it in this time as a kind of imprint of something long dead. No one's seen a live one, but you've seen something like this in other books, depicted here and there, and you do know that these are sometimes found just in stone, embedded. And the theme of this chapter seems to be, because you got so many successes, all of these seem to be engravings found in these tombs. So the one most heavily emphasized is perhaps some tomb that bears this ammonite.
What I can gather is it's going over burial sites and the markings on them. I am not sure what grave has these markings of long-dead creatures, but that does seem like the most prominent of them.
Long-dead creatures?
Ammonites.
That is a term I'm not familiar with, although zoology was never my forte.
No one has seen one alive, but occasionally it is found pressed into stone.
I'm glad to have you with me, Elined. 2 heads are better than 1, after all.
Yes, and I'm glad you're here as well. I obviously cannot read this. And the company's nice, too.
He smiles at that.
She smiles in return.
Greek was a bit of an uphill struggle for me, but once I got it, I really did. It has a pattern to it.
Much like Middle Saxon for me, then, it took quite a while for me to get the hang of it.
I thought my instructors were going to cane me. But I studied, and studied some more. In any case, I think we've gotten as far as we're going to get tonight.
I will take a Wits Enigmas from both of you. Standard.
I do not have enigmas.
And you cannot roll.
That is why I specified I didn't have it.
Fortunately, Cormac does. 1 success. You know that there are texts which go into more detail on the burial mounds, the ancient burial mounds of England, including a lot of the details of the findings on the stone and which burial mounds are described in such ways as might find an ammonite. Of course, it would take more research and more time to dig these texts up from libraries you think are not here. But
Have I actually laid eyes on these books, and do I remember where?
Oxford or Cambridge would certainly have the text to detail some of these burial mounds, these kind of Barrow Downs kind of places where the very ancient used to bury their dead.
Something has occurred to me, and he'll tell Elined what he's thinking about.
Possibly.
That's a trip for later. But an interesting problem. I can't wait to solve it. I think Thomas might be interested as well. Given his ties to the sea, I mean. Isn't it funny how I keep calling him a he even when he's not here?
Yes, it is quite funny. But on the topic of him, I think he may be more interested in that manner of... well, the one we were offered to go to, but more than likely are going to refuse.
Who knows what the future will bring? Well, I'm going to head to bed then.
Right.
All right. The two of you find rooms in the manor that you can, again, make use of. It seems Volanus is still out, as well as your brother, Elined. So really it's just the Kine, the staff here, and of course, Gertrude. So the two of you set down for the coming day, and the day passes uneventfully. You can mark off a blood point as you both rise, and in time, after getting yourself together, you come back downstairs somewhere in the foyer and rejoin each other for the new night. August 21st. Unless you mean to escape the manor without finding each other.
No, Cormac will of course want to find Elined because they have to try to sneak back to the...
Yep. Elined will go to the meeting place with the bundled up act.
Okay. Go ahead.
They had, though of course they previously did mention wanting to do so without gaining attention, so any type of way to do this discreetly would be...
Absolutely. I will have you both make a dexterity stealth roll to move a bit more surreptitiously through the streets.
Cormac would have recommended that we find her a dark cloak of some kind. He's already wearing dark cloak.
Difficulty is going to be 7. The streets are very busy early in the evening.
You said dex plus stealth?
Yes. Unless you think something's more appropriate.
No, that's fine.
Oh, it's narrowly not a botch.
Narrowly.
Let's see how Elined fares.
Okay. Obtenebration level 1 shadow play to help. Of course, she's not using it in broad view of everyone else. It's more sticking to the shadows and having them naturally aid her stealth, or their stealth, rather.
Sure. You can add... I'll say you can add your obtenebration dots to this roll. Make it a little bit nicer.
For both of us?
Can Cormac use it as well, since I intended it to be used for both of us? I was just looking at the rule set.
It's a team effort, so since he didn't botch, I will let you add. All you have to do is get 1 success for the 2 of you.
Okay.
So it's on you, Elined.
+1 difficulty for not having stealth.
Yes. Well done, 2 successes. So, Cormac, you're not feeling the most agile or ginger tonight with your steps. Fortunately, Elined does much to help the both of you in moving along side streets and mostly out of sight. You see and notice the shadows conceal you even when you expect the light of torches to reveal you. They simply don't. It's as though the light averts away from you, very strangely. And really, because of her help, you're able to move much more discreetly through Bristol, making your way back to this chapel.
He is quite unnerved by this experience, but of course says nothing as they're trying to be...
Let me make a roll. Alright. You both make it to the chapel. And again, there is that feeling of discomfort. But you've gotten a little bit more used to it now that you're more prepared for it mentally. And so you're able to drown it out with some thoughts and some focus. And there are a handful of people here in very quiet prayer, their heads bowed, knees down on the cloth in these pews. Really, no one's paying attention to you much. Everyone seems to be here for themselves more than anything. And so you make your way past the pews of these few people in quiet prayers. You hear the quiet intonations of them here and there. And in time, descending down, you make your way back through the hallway. And at the end of the hallway, you move this large statue and re-enter the crypt of Hezekiah. When you enter, you do see him standing there in the corner. Although he does seem a bit apprehensive. He seems a bit tense at the sight of you, as though not expecting visitors, or perhaps not used to them coming down here on their own. But he loosens up. He seems to relax a bit at the sight of you and just you.
You have returned.
Were our efforts successful? Did the pull stop?
They were successful. I no longer feel the pull.
He nods.
Is this it?
And he looks at the bundle you're carrying.
She nods and glances around for a place to set the bundled axe down.
There is a stone slab where you're sure there was a body there last night, but there's nothing there now.
Alright, so she'll go forward and glance over. May I put it down?
He gestures out, inviting you to.
She places the bundled axe down and slowly, carefully begins to unravel.
He takes steps over to examine it more closely. Where's she? He runs his hand across the blade, feeling at it. This weapon is infused with death.
Yes, it belonged to Wulfric. As far as I know, he had it on his person when he died.
He nods. I can tell. There is a ritual which I may use here. One which I have adapted. And he turns to you, looking very grim, each of you. It will require a freshly severed human head. However,
Cormac grimaces a bit. His hand absently moving up to his neck.
I would use one of the cadavers which I have, but that which I would perform here demands the freshest of death. Death has a way of disposing of the logic of this land and creating its own, both hiding and revealing its secrets.
A dark deed, but certainly doable.
I'm not sure I can murder an innocent.
He looks at you gravely. Perhaps you have lived a very protected existence, if you have not had to do that yet. I expect you shall have to do worse before your time on this plane is ended.
Feeling chastised, Cormac bows his head. An evildoer. That I would have no compunctions about.
That is what I was about to suggest. We could keep an eye out for any of the more troublemaking sort.
It would have to be tonight.
The purity of their heart means nothing to me, nor to death. But move quickly. I know not how much time you have bought us.
She nods.
I'm not quite sure Kincaid completely accepted our story, so we will hurry.
He nods once.
Elined, you know this city. Where is the worst part of it? There we're bound to find murderers and thieves.
She thinks back on it, and would the worst part be the port or somewhere around there?
The port does have warehouses, and the warehouses does seem to attract the seedy kind of individual you're searching for. That or the rack, which this city certainly has. A slum of homelessness and, much worse, darkness.
Either the rack or the port.
The port, then. Sailors are often the worst sort.
Very well. And with that, she will leave the axe there and begin to lead him on the...
There is something else, he says as they're leaving.
He watches you with his one eye.
Oh, he's talking actually to Elined, not Hezekiah,
Oh, so
as they
go ahead.
depart. We'll need bait. And, he looks her up and down.
Bait.
I'm sure there are some who would love to make a meal of a nobleman out on his own. But a young woman, that is the juiciest meat of all.
Yes, and if they try anything, I can certainly dominate them into following us.
At which point we'll use our other gifts. He grins.
She nods.
Hunting those who prey on the weak has always been a hobby of mine. Or let's say I would rather make it one. There's no place for such sorts in civilized society.
And yet they always seem to crop up.
Necessity breeds devils, they say.
Yes, there is a number of things people would do for the sake of survival.
I'll do my best to stay out of sight while you lure our mark, whoever that might be.
Of course. Oh, and as for a warning, since we are going to the port, we could very well end up running into that Nosferatu I told you about earlier.
Would you take offense to what we intend?
I am not entirely certain. What I am certain of is his, as mentioned before, his bitter attitude towards how people treat.
I have no intent toward the Nosferatu for good or ill.
Nor
They,
do
like
I.
us, are cursed.
Though I thought you might like to speak with him at some point after our business is concluded.
Then if we run into him, we will. Somehow I doubt he'll make himself known to us tonight.
Of course.
And for the rest of the trip, Cormac will quietly steel himself for what they have to do.
Elined, since you are a local here... Oh, I was muted. Good. Elined, since you are a local here, you're aware that yes, the sheriff, Montreal, does live somewhere in the docks or under the docks somewhere, and that he also more or less claims hunting grounds over the port.
Though there is the issue of it being his hunting grounds. And
Where-
I may have failed to mention his status.
Do not forget, we are lords of the gauntlet. We have been given permission to feed where we will in any covenant domain.
Very well.
If he takes exception, it's a risk we'll have to take.
Alright. Two of you... Go ahead.
Though he is the sheriff, word might get back.
Do not trust yourself to be discreet. I know you better than that.
No, but I also trust myself to be pessimistic.
Now, you see, that's where we differ. I think this is going to be a right good time. A frolic through the tulips, if you will.
Alright, the two of you make your way out of the chapel and in the direction of the port. Still trying to remain surreptitious about this?
Probably more so than ever.
Yes.
Okay. I'll take another dexterity stealth from you both. You can combine it as a team roll.
Don't botch, don't botch, don't botch.
All you have to do is not botch. It's 1 from Cormac. And 2 from Elined. Alright. You're both more successful coming out of the chapel. The route down to the port is, fortunately, not very well lit. And that aids Elined's work much more in concealing the two of you. You make your way down to the boardwalk, the wooden floorboards that edge the perimeter of the water. The ship's docked there. And eventually you find where some of this boardwalk meets the much larger, very plain-looking buildings, the warehouses, of which seem to go on in rows and create small alleyways that are very poorly patrolled and very dimly lit. Describe to me how you go about trying to ensnare one of these ne'er-do-wells.
Well, Cormac, for his part, plans to stay out of sight several yards away, but within sight of Elined.
Elined, being the designated fate as she was told. Simply plans to, on her own, with the discipline not active, I should specify that, walk down the shadowy alleyway and see if that garners any attention. Try to play up the part of being lost or something. Though she isn't an actor of any stretch of the imagination.
No one just happens to be loitering in this first alley that you're really kind of sauntering through. Certainly no one approaching you, at least. But you said you're trying to actively make yourself look lost or put on a performance?
She is trying to seem as such, yes. Though she is hardly an actress.
And are you sticking to one alley or kind of moving through them, hunting?
If there is no one in this alley, there is no one in this alley, and she would have to search elsewhere.
Alright, I will take an appearance performance from you, Elined, and a dexterity stealth from Cormac.
Boy, a whole 2 dice.
Cormac is going to direct blood to this.
Okay. Standard difficulty for both. If you don't have performance, it's higher difficulty. Hey, 1 success. Alright. Do you want to describe Elined and give any flavor to, what she's doing to draw attention and make herself look helpless and lost? Like a good target?
Okay. Well, her hands are reach up and grasp at the gray cloak, drawing it around herself a bit as she glances around at the surroundings. Occasionally stopping and looking back or pondering going in directions should a crossroads appear before heading on.
Perfect. That was great. Cormac, you do well in stalking her as though you are the hunter, staying a good 15 paces behind her, crouching behind boxes and debris, staying around behind corners. And Elined does a decent job, surprisingly. She looks fairly genuine. And after maybe half an hour of this show she's putting on, you're walking down one of these alleys, Elined, and it gets a little bit narrow, just because of all the barrels that are piled up outside of this warehouse. And as you pass through the narrow passage made from these barrels stacked up on each side, you take a few steps and you hear some voices behind you.
She will turn, look quite a mixture of surprised and a little bit of fright.
What do we got here, boys? Looks like this miss, he took a wrong turn. You see 3 men come out from the barrels. Some of them are sitting, some of them are standing, holding mugs. They look tattered in apparel, maybe dock workers by their breeches. It's hard to tell in this light.
My apologies, sir. I came down here to meet a friend of mine.
I've got a friend for you to look at. This man starts to circle around to you, behind you. I think I got just what you need. And the three men start to approach you, coming up very close.
I hardly think this is proper.
This one man who's mostly been doing the talking as the two other men just continue to get near you, all of them looking a bit worse for wear, scraggly beards. There's not a lot of light down this alleyway. Really, it's from the streets on either end, just from the torches of the warehouses on the boardwalk, really. And the man who's been speaking, he comes up to grab you from behind.
She will attempt to jerk away from him, or otherwise avoid him.
Alright, do you want to resist or dodge?
Dodge.
Alright, Dex Athletics. And Cormac, you're seeing most of this happen.
Alright, is there one that's closer to me, perhaps the one that's on the...
Yeah, so ahead of you is this narrow passage of these barrels that go up, and that's where you saw these men kind of appear. So there's two men with their back to you, and then there's Elined further ahead, and then there's a man beyond her who's grabbing her from behind.
Gotcha.
Alright, you dodge the first man who was coming behind you, but you dodge into the arms of one of the other two men, who wraps his hands around you and starts fondling you. And now they're all on top of you. They're pulling you down quickly, laughing as they do so.
Cormac will choose to act now. He's going to look around to make sure there's no other onlookers and activate celerity.
None that you can see.
If it's a Cainite, so be it. She's obviously been attacked. And he will rush to grab the hindmost man.
Alright, Strength Brawl. I'll give you difficulty 4 coming up out of nowhere from behind. Elined, what are you doing as these men are starting to pull at your clothes and they're fondling you? One's trying to hold your mouth down.
I am going to activate Potence to push these people off of me. And to otherwise break away.
Alright. Cormac, you get a good grasp at this backmost man who's working at Elined's skirts, and you pull him away. Elined, go ahead and roll a Strength Brawl. And if you're activating Potence, you can spend a blood and put those as automatic successes.
I'm going to do that. Because I got nothing in Brawl.
Yeah, no penalty to Brawl, it's a talent.
Yes.
You must overcome 3 successes as these 2 other men...
That would be 2.
Alright, you get one of them off. You get the man who's kind of holding at your torso and grabbing at your chest, but the other one has still got hands on your mouth and is holding you down from up ahead of you. But at this point, The man that Cormac tackled is now on the ground yelling, "Oh, get this guy off me!" And the man who was on your mouth element is getting up, and you can hear some blades being drawn. Roll initiative.
That's not good.
Oh
That
my
is also not good.
God.
Jesus. You guys
We
are
really
adding
don't
in
want-
like celerity and shit, right?
I am.
Okay.
I don't have celerity.
This is embarrassing.
This is embarrassing. We're getting outsped by mortals.
No, you don't know that.
Jesus Christ.
Well, they're doing great. 14, 13, 15. There we go. All right. So this third man is the one that's pinned, or is pinned by Cormac still. The second man is the one you pushed off, Elined, and the first man is the one who is free. So bad guy 3, the man under Cormac, is going to try and fight him off. He'll try and get out of his grapple. Go ahead and give me strength brawl to hold control of him, Cormac, unless you're doing something else.
No, I'm holding it.
Okay, so have you roll that in contest.
His arms are like iron.
Oh yeah, you have no trouble. This guy wastes his energy as he's yelling, trying to fight against you, and you're having no trouble keeping him down. The man who's free is drawing his blade to slash at you. He's let go of you, Elined, and he's charging Cormac, who's going to slash at Cormac. But Cormac is grappling, so he is stuck in place. Alright, roll soak.
Right you are, sir.
You have you have fortitude?
I do. I added it in.
Oh, rolling? Okay.
Yeah, I haven't activated it. Just rolling it.
So this man gets a surprising attack on you, really mostly because you're stuck holding this one man down, which is not difficult for you. Unfortunately, because you're so tightly gripped around this man, this other man comes up and runs up and shivs you right in the neck, and he gets a really solid cut into your neck. And you've taken 3 lethal from this attack.
Oh, wait. Yes. Oops. I subtracted dice I should not have done.
Oh yeah, no, you shouldn't. So that's 2 more. You so...
So I soaked 4.
I see 2 1s, so shouldn't that be 3 soak?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, 3. Still better.
Yes, it is. That's much more realistic. You soak most of the attack, but 1 lethal gets through as he gets a good cut into your neck, carving up. And this is the brawling of a sailor, you think, who has probably enough skill with a blade to do damage, but probably not the training to compete against someone like you or Thomas.
Definitely. And probably surprised that I'm not bleeding once he stabbed me. And I just look at him with hateful eyes.
And the last man, Elined just pushed off. Well, we'll see if he can get up this turn to do anything. He did, so he's also going to charge Cormac because much more important to take care of this man than the woman, obviously. He's also going to get a good strike at you while you're grappling the man on the ground. I'll have you roll a soak again.
I'll roll the correct one this time.
Yeah, you're able to soak this easily. The other man comes up and he tries to stab you in the back as this other man gets you in the neck. And they should be good attacks. They definitely connect, but your body is strong enough to withstand the attacks very well. Elined, you're on the ground, but you have a chance to move now. If you want to get up and act in the same turn, you can take a Dex Athletics standard difficulty. Or you can just spend the turn getting up safely.
Alright, that would be Dex Athletics.
Standard.
I guess I'm spending my action to get up.
Yes. Luckily didn't botch. Yeah, you'll just be spending the turn getting up. Cormac, you have a grip on this man as these other 2 men are shivving at you. What do you do?
He's going to backhand one of them, leaning his weight into the other fellow's back. I don't know if it maintains a grapple or not, but he's just keeping them there for a moment anyway.
You can take a celerity action to do both.
I thought I could only... Oh, actually, that's right, because it's only 1 celerity, so I can use both for an attack, right?
Yes.
Okay, so 1 attack is going to be backhanding the one, and the other one is going to be using my foot to hold the guy down.
Absolutely.
Maintaining my grapple.
So you take no difficulty penalty, just the dice, so you'll be -1, then -2. So I'll take Strength Brawl on both. Or actually, you can do Dex Brawl on the backhand.
Alright. Almost forgot to subtract that die.
Alright, go ahead and roll damage, it's going to connect.
Fumbling blow. There is a lot of strength behind it. Ouch.
Wow. 6 successes, he soaked 1s, that's 5 bashing. Describe Cormac as he slams this guy. He's going to go flying from this hit.
Yeah, Cormac digs his knee into the back of the man that he's got on the ground, turning towards the man who shivved him in the... He rears back his hand and plasters him across the face with it, sending him sprawling into the dirt against the far wall. Anyone who's looking can tell that that was not a hit that a man could make.
Yeah, he goes flying into the wall of this warehouse. The wood actually cracks as he becomes part of the wall, and it becomes just embedded. He's out cold from this one hit. And the other man who just stabbed you, Jesus Christ! Fuck this! And he drops the knife. He starts running. And now all you've got is this man beneath you, who, I'm not going to make you roll. He's not getting up from you. At this point, I'm going to say combat's over with this one decisive strike. You've basically put one out cold, the other one's running for his life, and this last man he's just looking at you in awe and terror. Let me go. I swear I wasn't gonna do anything. Please, let me go. I won't say anything. You'll never see me again. Please let me live.
Is the man that is running away running past me?
No.
Darn.
I'll take care of him. You handle this.
Very well.
And with his celerity still active, he's going to take off after that other fellow.
She'll wander over to the man that's remaining there and command him to follow her.
Alright. I'm not going to require a roll. He's a weak-willed man. He's just a mortal. He's nothing very special. He easily follows your command. His eyes kind of glaze over. Despite the sweat coming down his face, he seems to have taken on a much calmer demeanor. Cormac, you're very easily able to catch up to the man running away. He's no athlete, and you're impossibly fast. What do you do when you catch up to the man?
I'm going to slam him against the wall and knock him out cold as well.
Okay. Yeah, no roll required. You coming up from behind at the speed you are, you easily grasp him. Go ahead and describe him as you... I mean, you're still in this alleyway. You're not even out on the boardwalk yet.
After asking Elined to take care of the man on the ground, Cormac moves in a blur, coming up behind the man, and before he even knows what hit him, he grabs him by his doublet, picks him up, and slams him against the wall. Perhaps not as hard as the man he hit back in the alleyway, but hard enough.
He makes a satisfying smash against the wall and just collapses onto the floor cold.
Drink it off, boys. You're the lucky ones. And he nods to Elined.
Are you certain you want to leave them here?
All they're going to be able to say is that they were attacked by an incredibly strong man.
Fair enough.
As far as I'm concerned, we've kept the silence this night.
That was my concern, yes. Now
Maybe
then.
we can peel this fellow off the wall over here. And he'll walk back that way.
Right, him. Almost forgot about him.
He'll take the unconscious man out of the wall.
A few bits of wood and timber kind of crumple off of the wall as you pull him out. There's a bunch of splinters in him. You think he'll live, but he's certainly broken most of his bones.
He looks around for a barrel. He'll grab a barrel.
There are many. Most of them are filled with fish, you realize.
Oh, any empty ones?
Looking around, you do find one empty one eventually.
He'll take that back and smash it, leaving the bits of splinters around the unconscious man, to make it look like he was hit by a barrel, and perhaps during the fight the wall was damaged.
Easily enough, you crush this barrel around the man.
Best we can do.
Yes.
And we haven't fed in someone else's domain. Isn't that nice?
That is very nice. Now, let's be off before we are noticed.
Agreed. He's going to stay like that, isn't he? He'll look at the man following her.
Unless we put him in direct danger.
He nods. Well done.
It's a rather simple trick.
And Elined, just so you're aware, you do look roughed up. Your dress is somewhat torn near the chest, and it's obvious something happened to you.
She draws her cloak around her once again to hide the damage.
Easily enough concealed. And the man who just moments ago was trying to assault you and then trying to scream for his life is now very quietly and placidly following you. Have you both make a perception awareness difficulty 8?
Where were those dice a minute ago?
Alright, 1 success, Cormac. Nothing from Elined. The irony of the dice pool is not lost on me. Cormac, the two of you, like the three of you, are all leaving, and you're making your way out of the alley, and you get this feeling, looking back briefly, something about the light has changed. You feel like you either weren't noticing there was more light, or there wasn't more light. Something's different. You really can't put your finger on it, but it's just a momentary thought of the scene changing somehow.
He looks back toward the alley, and not seeing anything he can put his finger on, narrows his eyes. We should hurry.
And so they shall.
Okay. Where are you going?
I am of the opinion we are trying to sneak our way back, are we not?
It's gonna be really hard with this guy in tow.
I know.
But yes, we can try.
I mean, his ritual did call for a fresh head.
I would say you got the impression that, or maybe even he explained, that it doesn't have to be moments fresh, but certainly the more fresh the better. If that helps. You think mostly he did not want something dug up out of the grave.
Maybe we could do this somewhere private.
She glances around. There are certainly a lot of warehouses, but you seemed eager to get out of here.
Yeah, something didn't feel right. But it could be nothing. Just the thrill of the hunt.
If it helps, I didn't notice anything.
It does.
More importantly, if we did do that in a location, do we have anything to wrap it in?
And what's more, what do we do with the rest of it?
Precisely.
Nothing is ever easy, is it?
That's why I thought the easiest option was to try to meander our way.
I suppose that's our best option then. And let's hope we're not followed.
So they will try sneak their way back, but I will not be using obtenebration this time because the first level of obtenebration typically makes mortals in presence of it run screaming in terror, and that is counter to what they want to do right.
I'm gonna say you're fortunate enough that he's so focused on you, he will not notice these things. Other people would. If you otherwise tried to bring him along, he'd be terrified, but he's far too mesmerized trying to follow you. He's not gonna notice this, you think.
Okay.
Typical routine, stick to the shadows.
Alright. Again, dex stealth from both of you. You can still use your obtenebration dots to add to your stealth.
Is this a new scene, or does my blood still stay spent? Like, is my dex higher?
Yeah, I'll let you keep it. It's very recent. It is technically a new scene, but for this movement, for the transport over to the chapel, you can keep it.
Okay. What difficulty?
Standard. For Elined, it's going to be a higher because she didn't have stealth.
No, not like it matters. Thomas, you can have your dice back now.
That's okay, I rolled for all of us.
It's true. Elined is certainly saving the night by using her shadows very unnaturally. There are times when you certainly would have stepped more into the lights, more into the crowds than you would have meant to, Cormac, when you realize the shadows are moving with you, and you realize your misstep and decide to follow Elined a bit more closely along the walls of the streets, and this helps a lot in keeping you low profile. The man follows along Elined almost step by step, and so he doesn't make these kind of mistakes, and fortunately doesn't have any creativity to decide for himself. So he isn't much of an issue, he just kind of follows along. Soon enough, you're all back in the chapel. And at this point, the parishioners are gone, the people praying are gone. But for probably your sake, Tybalt has not locked up the chapel, and so it's no difficulty returning inside. You make your way down into the crypt once more.
Before we do that, Cormac will actually lock the door behind then.
Noted.
He's a bit paranoid.
You lock the door behind you, and you descend. And as before, you make your way into this secret compartment where Hezekiah awaits you. He seems to be putting something together at one of these slabs, some concoction of some kind. Almost looks like ground up fungus or fungi of some kind into a dark paste. And he stops as he sees you both enter.
She still has the cloak drawn in front of her.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we brought the individual.
Oh.
You said the fresher the better. As such, we brought him here.
Fresh indeed. So you took me very seriously. All the better. I shall make use of him afterwards.
She nods.
If it's all the same, I'd rather not watch what you do to him.
He looks at you for a moment and then nods, gesturing gesturing for you to leave.
He'll head down to the hall to where they move the statue then and stand guard.
Elined, on the other hand, will watch as more out of getting some tiny bit of vengeance, despite the fact that they were the ones that concocted this plan in the first place.
All right.
Hypocritical vengeance, the best kind.
Absolutely. So, the scene fades on the sight of Cormac leaving and Hezekiah getting out his tools, being working on this man who is very much still living. We will change scenes from here. And we will look back again at York. We return to York. The following night, after the banquet has ended, Robert, you and Dorothy spent a good amount of time together that night, feeding on each other and ravaging each other. In time, she seemed content, even giddy, at your willingness to align with her and to commit. You suspect perhaps even part of this act was a test of your commitment to her. She eventually leaves from the room, retiring elsewhere. She mentions that this is actually not her room at all, it's Ragna's. You do see in the hallway as you're leaving that she seems to be stopped by Ragna. And Ragna sees you as you're leaving her room, but doesn't say anything to you. They seem to go off and speak. You seem to have avoided whatever confrontation Ragna was going to have with her. Where does Robert retire to for that rest of the evening? Do we have Robert?
I'm here. Sorry, I missed what happened.
So basically, you find out that Dorothy tricked you into having sex with her on Ragna's bed. And Ragna breaks it up, but doesn't seem interested in a confrontation with you so much as Dorothy. I was interested, where does Robert go after that?
Oh, wow. Just broke in the room like that, huh?
She didn't seem very surprised, and she didn't seem to pay much attention to you.
He'll apologize and take his leave. Where he intends to go next. It's suppose that depends on the time. Well, he'll go seek out Thomas.
Thomas, you did not, unfortunately, find Rothschild as you were walking the ramparts. You spent some time up there, but no one ever really approached you. He either chose not to or never found you to interact with you, if he is here at all.
In the castle. It was a risk. Figured it was a pretty slim chance.
So we'll actually open a scene on that same night, later in the night, certainly. There isn't much left, maybe a couple hours. And Thomas, you're passing through one of the main halls near the front of the castle when you see Robert, clearly a bit disheveled and not entirely dressed. I'll let Robert describe his state of undress.
I'm sure his doublet's a little unbuttoned. Clothing is a little wrinkled, not smooth and straight.
You look like a farm boy who's just been caught in the hay with the farmer's daughter. Was she worth it?
That remains to be seen.
You do know that she's almost certainly playing you.
So?
For the fool, Robert.
I'm not going to get angry at her.
As luck would have it, someone happened to convince Prince Ragnar that you were less the threat to Dorothy and more that Dorothy was the threat to you.
Is that so? Well, I can tell you've been busy.
Not quite as busy as you. Not that I can blame you. It's certainly a table I wouldn't mind dining at, but it seems inappropriate to engage in such things in the house of our host, who happens to also be a Covenant Prince.
Inappropriate, perhaps. Well, certainly, especially considering the circumstances. But it was quite thrilling.
Has it occurred to you that Ragnar is testing us? I believe I mentioned that.
Yes, you have.
Had you thought to give a moment's consideration to what end she might be testing us for?
No, not really. I expect you'll tell me what you suspect.
Really, Robert, at your age, you shouldn't need to be told.
Then what have you discovered?
Oh no. I'm not going to make it that easy for you. You have to ask the right questions. Think about what took place this evening.
A test of arms, perhaps a test of court. Do you think her child was a test as well?
No. I think Dorothy has ambitions. And I think she saw you as a potential leverage to achieve those ambitions. It's ham-fisted. But she saw an easy mark.
Yes, well. I can't say much to that scathing remark, but I'll just let it pass.
Or you could fix it. Stop making yourself an easy mark.
I don't think I could half as enjoy these nights if I just went about either threatening those that are beneath me or throwing my weight around.
If you're trying to imply something, all you've succeeded in doing is showing how little you're paying attention.
Well, that's a good thing, isn't it? It's less that my sire has to eat. My
Yes.
grandsire, that is.
Quite so. That makes two people you've allowed to play you like a pianoforte. You really do need to adapt to this situation and develop a bit of guile.
So you say.
So I know, and you would too, if you took this half as seriously as you do flirting and flouncing about. It's your neck on the line, Robert. There'll be no more pretty girls for you to fondle if it's severed and your head relieved from your body.
Not much you say is true.
More to the point, Your missteps put other people on the line as well. Though I know you hold the rest of us in very little regard.
Not true. I do care for the other members of the Gauntlet.
Oh, the others. How exactly have I wronged you?
You have not really wronged me. But with your insistence on taking the lead earlier and doing things your way in our social
Yes. Well, we saw what your way got us. Or had you forgotten that quickly about Amelia?
what you say. It is unfortunate.
What I say is your fault. My way kept her in unlife. My way also prevented. How many men was it that Jean-Marc sent after those rebels?
What about them?
How do you imagine they fared?
Poorly.
Yes. We didn't know enough about how the Covenant princes would react to the news. We didn't have all of the information about what the rebels actually wanted. As it turns out, they might simply be pawns in a larger scheme to unstabilize the region. Your ham-fisted approach, spilling the beans and sharing all of the details, most of which were incomplete, half-known facts, has hastened the destabilization of England rather than preventing it. So at best, you've cost the lives of, 200 men? And Amelia, who trusted you. At worst, you've allowed whatever puppet master is behind all this to further their aims. Still want to go it your way.
Thomas, all I did was
All you did
report what
was try and take reins you didn't know how to handle on a horse you'd never ridden before. And it bucked and threw you off. And now you're very desperately scrambling to find your footing again before it runs off into the brambles.
Of course, this could have been avoided if you just stuck with what the council wanted.
As I've told you, it's entirely likely some or all of the council is being manipulated. to the very same ends that these rebels are being used to achieve.
Yes, you keep insisting that. If that is anything else, you would have made an error.
What else would you suggest that it might be?
For now, too little is known.
Precisely my point. And yet, you want to share what little we know with unstable individuals at the command of large cadres of armed soldiers who are given towards flights of violence and destruction.
At the very least, my grandsire was too hasty in out.
At the very
Men.
best, your grandsire was too hasty. At the very worst, he's paranoid and is being used.
But have you thrown your lot in with the rebels? That is my question.
I don't know enough about them. They raise good points, but their means are too aggressive, too brutal. And as I said, they are most likely being used as a pawn in a larger game. A game I would not see through to fruition if it can be avoided.
So you suspect the rebels are being used to further someone else's means?
Precisely. And I think that someone else is also who is manipulating the princes. And I wouldn't be terribly shocked if they were behind the Mercers Guild as well.
Now that I am most curious about.
This is what I'm telling you. Take a step back. Look at all the pieces of the puzzle. There are a great many moving pieces, and some of them are connected. But if we run to a prince every time we find one detail, they'll react to the single detail that suits them most, rather than all of the facts. And that is why Robert de Filwer still walks. I believe someone, possibly Jean-Marc himself, within the Covenant, ordered the death of our predecessors. I don't believe the end result of that would have suited Ragna's means. She has ambitions, true, but an intact enforcement body suits those needs, replacing them with much younger canines such as ourselves destabilizes many things, throws her plans off kilter. This meeting is rushed. This banquet out of season. she would need more time for all the banners to be called. So to have the Duke of York return home so soon is premature. I think possibly a circumstance of the fact that the gauntlet has been prematurely ended, and we have been placed in their stead, has forced her to step up timetable. She puts on a good front, but she's off balance. That's part of why she's gauging us, to see if we can continue to do the job left vacant by the other gone.
And what of the other princes, like Barbaros?
Barbaros is almost certainly in someone's pocket. Ambrose as well, I think.
Even Ambrose.
I hesitate to say it, but his demeanor is shifted. He's far too insular for his own good. He used to hold court in Elysium.
Very well, Thomas. You have my attention.
At least 3 are at least suspicious in their actions. Jean-Marc could simply be overblown paranoia. That's easily enough written off. Barbaros, someone unwholesome has his ear. My suspicion with Jean-Marc still rests with that banner, that heraldry addressed to him directly. There's no way he didn't know.
Yes. I would like to figure out a way to investigate that.
I don't know that we can get close enough to ask the question, much less get a straight answer. There's a bit of an accusatory glance at Robert.
Then we'll have to look out for opportunities.
Right now, so far as I can see it, Ragnar may be our best ally. At the very least, her ambitions are in character.
I trust you've made a good impression on her.
I believe so. At the very least, I haven't made a fool of myself. He gives a little self-deprecating chuckle.
You do have a barbed tongue.
I would very much like to speak with Octavia and Sebastian, but I don't know if we have time. So many things are in motion already. Did you see the force outside during the banquet?
No, I haven't.
Each of the nobles inside commands a force of at least 100 men, some as many as 1,000. You don't rally forces of that size without meaning to use them.
No, you don't. Do you think that Ragna has laid claim to them all?
I think that Ragna means to supplant the king. As I said, her ambitions are in character, predictable. Plans may not be. But once you see enough of the moving parts, you can garner at least some idea of what the end game is. She wishes to have the crown of England at her beck and call. It's in her blood.
That would be a powerful card indeed.
Would indeed. The question will be whether or not she intends to supplant Ambrose as Prince of London in the process.
That is a question.
It will be a very carefully worded question when I pose it to her. She needs to know that I am both aware and have no intention of interfering.
Well, I must say, bravo at putting these pieces together.
The question I need to answer now, with your help, hopefully, is how this will shift the terrain beneath our feet.
I'm certain I can keep an ear out for the possibilities of this.
Dorothy seems enamored with you. Be very careful about how you question her around this topic. She may know nothing, but she would almost certainly report back your curiosity. Play it off. Use the most benign line of questioning you can.
Easily doable.
I've bought you a little leeway. Ragna, as I said, believes you have no guile in you. So if you begin demonstrating some, she's like to become suspicious of both of us.
Then benign it shall be.
I forgot to mention, she means to make for London in a few weeks' time. I've mentioned that we too will be meeting up with our colleagues by the turning of the month. Hopefully sooner. And I've offered to book passage aboard the same vessel to London. Hopefully, we can be present if any particularly noteworthy events take place.
Yes, I would like to be there for this.
Fortunately, if she leaves ahead of us, it will be, what, 2, almost 3 weeks' time before she arrives in the city? We might just make it there ahead of her.
Then I suppose little more needs to be said.
Be cautious when you share this with your grandsire. You might start a war that someone is already prepared for.
Why, Thomas, that would only happen if I went back to Lincoln.
Yes, or if you wrote a letter. As I said, when you eventually tell your grandsire, be very careful. Ragna is already prepared to go to war. I don't believe Jean-Marc is. And at this point, York dwarfs all other districts of England. I don't believe that's a war that any individual prince of the Covenant can hope to win. I'm not even 100% certain that all of them combined could overpower her.
Yes, that is quite an impressive force that has been gathered here.
However, the night was somewhat beneficial for us as well. I've managed to secure a small retinue to accompany us as well.
Maybe now.
20 knights, on loan from a small noble house. I'm paying their wages.
Not bad.
The Count in question simply has no use for them and would rather not pay for their continued upkeep if he can avoid it. So rather than have him send them back to plowing land, I'm reimbursing him their costs, and they are at our service now. I'll be drawing up the contract this evening for delivery tomorrow.
Very good. It's always nice to have a few extras.
But yes, there's little else to pass along. Try to keep your pants on tomorrow.
I would like to say no promises, but this is a serious situation.
Quite so. Good evening, Robert.
See you on the next.
Thomas will make for his suite and begin pinning the contract aforementioned.
Alright. The scene fades to a close as the two of you depart your respective rooms. And at that, we will close the session. And we will pick it up again next week. Good game.
Of course, Fukar is not going to confirm or deny if anything I said is correct. Nor do I want him to.
I can neither confirm nor deny any of the allegations.
I can neither confirm nor deny the confirmation or deny. I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Except Robert, he totally did.
On top of the prince's bed, no less.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a misstep.
I was wondering if he would catch when Robert said something about this being her room and she never answered. He
Nope.
did not.
What is Guile? Is that Street Fighter 2 character?
He does a sonic boom and a flash kick.
Go
It's
home
kinda
and be a
awesome.
family
And I've
man.
heard that his theme goes with everything.
Well, I had fun. I hope you guys did. Thought there was a lot of good roleplay. We didn't quite get to everything I thought we would. There's still some exciting scenes coming up. One really big one for Cormac and Elined that I'm really looking forward to. And I am very much excited for everybody to get back together. Perhaps in York. I think that'll be cool. Unless you all don't. That'll also be cool.
We shall see.
To experience all around, let's do some entertaining role players. Start with Cormac.
Tough call. I'm gonna give it to Elined for the innocent victim act. It was quite good.
Less of an act at the end there.
Well, we took care of it.
Yeah, handedly.
She may have been a victim at the end of it, but she was not innocent.
True. Elined, how about you? Who does your vote go to?
Sorry, whose turn is it? My connection kind of crapped
You.
out there for a second.
It's you.
That's me. Hmm. I am going to give it to Thomas for saving Robert. Kind of, sort of. While still being that very chastising babysitter type tone with him.
I love the conversation they had where Thomas is like, "Don't you care about what you did?" And Robert's like, "Not really."
So
That's why I brought up the tone of chastising baby.
Like, you're gonna die. You're gonna get yourself killed and literally everyone else. What are you?
That's what unlife is worth living for.
Dying.
Exciting times at Fast Times at Ridgemont, York. All right, Thomas, how about you?
Cormac. He's definitely playing the very, very conflicted combatant. I want this thing, but I don't want to kill that guy. But I need this thing.
Slamming people around like rag dolls.
Yeah, that also.
Cool. And Robert.
I'll give it to Thomas for the real talk.
Keeping it real. Cool. Alright. Hope you guys enjoyed the game. We will pick it up again next week at the same time.